All right, so we're back with another video and we're dealing with the extreme heat down here in Florida right now. This is very, very bad. The heat index is phenomenal right now. So I like to check my panels with my temperature gun. And right now my temps on these panels here before I put the water base on them is about 96 degrees all the way up to about 98 degrees. So we're dealing with extreme heat, and I'm going to talk to you guys today on my gun setups. What I do in the actual hot weather like this here, I'll change up my gun settings, change the needle out, put a bigger fluid needle in. That way I have more coming out, because with this extreme heat, you'll need more fluid coming out of your guns. And I'm gonna talk to you guys today about that. All right, so first things first, this here panel has 2 coats of base coat on it. This was sealed with an epoxy, and now we have 2 coats of base, and we're gonna hit it with our temperature gauge. And you guys can see that this panel is about 91 degrees at the moment with the base coat on it. So with the water base, it tends to cool the panel down when you put your base on it, because it is a water-based product. If you're spraying water-based, you guys know what I mean. If you've ever checked your panel, once you put a coat of base on it, you'll see it actually cools down the panel, and it'll definitely change. Once it dries, you guys will see that it'll start to actually get hotter as it starts to flash off. So this here tool is great to have for your gloss retention, to make sure you're ready to clear. And I like to use this as well just to know where I'm at with my panel. That way I can see how hot it is in the booth. So, all right, so we're gonna go over all the settings on the guns, what I'm doing in this extreme heat, as well as how to use this to get maximum gloss retention in the water base. All right, so let's check this again. You guys see here now that this panel is running at about 98 degrees. See that 98? I'm gonna go ahead and put a coat of base on it and show you how much the water base cools down the actual panel once the water's on it. All right, so you guys seen when we started out, the panel was 98 degrees, and now this here is 87 degrees just from putting on a coat of base coat. So this is why this here temperature gauge will come in handy on the water base. Once you see that it's flashed off completely and it looks like it is dry, always come and check it with your temperature gun. And when this thing's running at about 98 degrees, and you see it's fully flashed off, you know that this is dry completely, and you will have your best gloss retention, because a lot of times it'll look like it's dry and it's still a little bit damp. And when you'll go ahead and clear it, you'll notice the next day you'll have some dieback with the water base. So this is a nice thing to have to check your temp and see where you're at. So this is 88 right now with the actual wet base coat on it. Let's go over to our door now that is dry, and I'll show you guys now what this is running at. So this one here is now at 97. You guys can see it there, 97. And when it dries, it gets a lot hotter, because I was telling you the water base actually is cool, being it is a water reducer and a latex based paint. So this here works really good for your base. And then when you're clearing, it's also good to check your panel, because you do not want to have your panel too hot. So sometimes people will turn the heat on in the booth to get the water base to dry. And you want to make sure that you let it cool down, way down. That way you do not have any problems with your clear, because you do not want to clear a very hot panel. You want to try to get it as cool as you can. That way you don't have any problems, because sometimes your clear will go goofy on you if the panel's too hot. So I've had that through the years. Guys would go in, they turn the heat way up, and the panel would be burning hot. You'd go in, you'd check it after they had a problem, and you'd see that the panel was way too hot, and that clear was reacting to the heat. So I'm gonna show you guys this one finished up, and when we clear it, we're gonna be using the DV1. And in this extreme temperature, I have my gun switched out to the 1.3. So let's go ahead. I got to put my pearl on this one, and then we'll get ahead and clear it. All right, so we've got our base coat on there now. We've got our pearl on there. We put 2 coats of the pearl with the Segola, and I'm using a 1.2, and I'm using the green cap on that. I like that one better when I'm doing my 3 stages. To me, it puts down a nicer, evener coat of the mid coat, and it comes out really nice. So for the clear, in this extreme heat, I'm changing up my settings to the 1.3. So when it's a little bit cooler out, I spray with the 1.2. But with the DV1, this gun comes with the 1.2, the 1.3, and the 1.4. So that's why the DV1 is a really nice setup, because you have all the setups you need for each temperature. So in here, the gun comes in here normally. You guys know it's inside there, but it comes with the different heads on it. So you can switch them out to whatever one you want based off of your temperature or whatever kind of material you're using. So normally I like the DV1 with the 1.2, but in this extreme heat, it needs a little bit more fluid coming out, so I switch up to the 1.3. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch out to the 1.3, and then we're gonna go ahead and get this thing cleared up and show you how nice it comes out. So in the extreme heat, you're gonna want a little bit more fluid coming out because it starts to dry as it's coming out of the gun, especially with these really good high-end guns that atomize the clear up flat. So let's go ahead, switch this out, and then clear up the job. And for the air cap, I'm using the C2 on it. So we've got the 1.3 with the C2 air cap, and that's the best setup right now in this extreme temperature. All right, we're gonna check our parts one more time. We're running at 98 now. We got 98. Everything is right around 98. Depending on whether you have aluminum or steel, it'll change. So we're ready to go for the clear. And now for the clear gun, on my setups for the gun, I have my fluid all the way out. I turn my needle all the way out. I squeeze my trigger, and then I turn my fluid until it hits the actual trigger. And that's where I leave it. So it's pretty much a wide open gun with a little tension on the actual spring. And then on the fan, I spray it wide open as well. So the fan is completely wide open. The fluid is turned in till you feel it hit the trigger, which is wide open. And then I'm spraying the DV1 with this setup, and even with my 1.2, I spray it at 22 PSI. So let's go ahead and clear this one. All right, so you guys see there, I wanted to show you guys when I put the clear on it, the temperature of the solvent. So the clear coat is a solvent, and you guys see that it was about 96 to 97 degrees. So I wanted you guys to see the difference of the water base, and that clear and that base is stored in the same room, which is an air-conditioned mixing room. So that's the difference between the two products in the water base and in the clear coat. So it drops down at least 10 degrees when you spray that water base on the panel, and you guys seen that. So having that temperature gun is good. So in your hot conditions, you can change up your needle size to get more fluid out of the gun, because when it's hot, it's a lot harder to put that clear on the panel. And I'm using the slow product, so I don't switch up my hardeners and my reducers. I go with a slow all the time. So my gun will change up how that stuff will spray by giving it a bigger needle size. So the DV1 is a good gun to have because it has multiple setups when you buy that gun, and everything that I use as far as the guns today will be in the description below. The Segola with the 1.2, and then the DV1 with all the setups that it comes with, as well as the temperature gun. So get yourself a gun. It's really good to have to check the temp on the actual panel for the base as well as the clear coat. That way you know that your base is dry and you'll have your best holdout. So tomorrow when we come in, this will have maximum gloss. I hope you guys got something out of this one. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.